parts of our economy. Ms. Kaptur, we'd love to hear from you on this issue. I know that you are passionate about it and very, very well informed.
I thank you, Congressman Garamendi, for bringing us together again. You are truly a leader on growing American jobs, growing more American jobs, all the way from California, way on the West Coast, to Congressman Paul Tonka's community
Islands.
In New York, on the East Coast, and to commend both you gentlemen for your dogged determination to keep expanding the recovery and doing everything we can to help the American people have increasing paychecks and fulfilling work and a good family life where they're able to raise their children or fulfill their dreams, whatever they might be. And I just wanted to come to the floor to talk about America's trade policies for a brief moment here. And the record, statistics don't lie, and our trade policies have been costing us more jobs than they have been yielding us for a very long time. And the trade policies that have been enacted have actually caused the United States to accumulate, since 1976, a staggering number, $9.5 trillion in trade deficit. That means more imports coming in here than our exports going out. And translating that into lost jobs, foregone jobs, 47,500,000 jobs in that little over quarter century. Now, the American people say, you know, why do we have a budget deficit? Well, I'll tell you why. When you lose this much productive wealth inside your country to other places, our people start to backslide. And they've been backsliding since the 1980s, as despite our hard work here to try to make a difference, trade policies have an enormous impact on the ability of the American people to maintain a standard of living and to both remain in the middle class or aspire to it and earn their way forward. It now takes two in a family to earn enough, whereas when I grew up, our father worked, and that was enough to support our family until he became ill, and that's a whole other story. But today, it is so hard for people to have two people working in the family and hold their household together. They're scrimping every week as to where they're going to put their limited incomes. And I just wanted to put this so people start thinking about how did America get in this deep a hole on trade. And I really believe that before we sign any more trade agreements, we ought to go back and fix what's wrong with the current ones. Wouldn't that make sense? They promised us with Korea, which is one of the most recent agreements, that we would be exporting 50,000 automobiles over there. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. In fact, we've already lost over 17,000 additional jobs because of the Korean agreement not being in balance. So I think we have to be rigorous and ask ourselves, how do we fix this for the sake of the future, not just this generation, but the next? I have a long list, and I'm going to be coming to the floor many evenings, going through this list, talking about companies that we have known in this country and where they have relocated. And I know that the workers in those places and the executives who used to run those companies, I know how hard they worked to create great American products, and they didn't deserve the fate that they were dealt because of bad trade policies. If I look at Salina, Ohio, maybe I'll start in my own state, with Huffy Bicycle. Huffy Bicycle used to be known coast to coast. It was made in western Ohio, and it actually became currently a Walmart supplier. And unfortunately, well over 1,000 people lost their jobs at Huffy Bicycle in Ohio in the late 1990s, 1998. And the plant first moved from Ohio to Missouri. Then it moved from Missouri to Mexico. And then it made its final move from Mexico to China. So if you look at the Huffy Bicycle today, you'll see the paint job isn't the same. You'll see the tires aren't the same. The quality of the metal isn't the same. It is not the bicycle that used to be made in Ohio that lasted a lifetime. So there's been a knockdown, a decreasing quality that has come with that manufactured product. which is then shipped back here to the United States and sold in different locations. It's kind of sad, really. I love chocolate. And I used to really like to buy Hershey bars, and I still do eat Hershey. But Hershey had always manufactured in Pennsylvania, in Hershey, Pennsylvania. In fact, when you walk through Hershey, you could smell the chocolate in the streets. It was just absolutely captivating. And but if you've noticed, Hershey has changed. The recipe has changed. They'll deny it. But their production, a large part of their production was moved to Mexico. They even had to change the wrapper to withstand the warmer temperatures, and the recipe changed. And all those workers in Hershey, Pennsylvania, 2011. That happened in 2011. These are brand name products that we know in our country. Dell. Dell had been located in the Carolinas, and in 2009, they moved to Mexico, too. So you think about the manufactured products that we have known, but companies like Bank of America that had offices in Cincinnati, Ohio, Independence, Ohio, they moved production to Mexico, too, in 2013. So if people think that they're safe in their service job because they're not in manufacturing, they'll be very surprised to learn that the service jobs will follow. How many phone calls have you gotten in your home from a call center located in, it could be anywhere in the world but here? And I always ask the person from the call center, where are you calling from and how much do you earn? And I find that their earnings are so low, they can't buy the very product that they are selling over the telephone. What kind of world are we creating? And the markets that exist in other places like Korea, like Japan, like China, are closed to us. We are racking up these gigantic trade deficits because we can't get our products in there, and the people in those places don't earn enough money to buy some of what we export. So it's really a rather vicious cycle. I'm not going to take up much more time except to say that I believe where America went wrong was about 30 years ago. We should have signed a trade relationship with Europe, which shares our political and legal values. They subscribe to a rule of law. We can do business, though their markets aren't completely open, they're pretty open, and we could work with them. And then we should have invited into that structure, which starts with a belief in democracy and representative government, these other countries that are aspiring to be better than they are, but without the political advancement, they will never, their economic system will never work for them without the rights that the American people have. And we could have invited in Mexico, we could have invited in the CAFTA countries, we could have invited in Korea, etc., to that union of democracy-loving republics. We didn't do that. And what worries me over time is, in the end, we might be cashing out our very liberty. Because if you look globally what's happening, you'll find in those places the people are not treated well that are doing this work. And over time, what kind of residue does that leave toward our country and toward those who are their new overlords? How does it, I've walked through some of these places. I've walked through some of these companies. I remember walking through with our mother, God love her, when she was still living, through one company in Mexico. She said, Marcy, look at the women's faces. And I did. And they were so afraid. They were afraid of their boss. They were afraid of us. They were afraid of losing their work because there was no worker representation. What kind of a world are we contributing to in these other places that most Americans will never visit? So I thank the gentleman. As I see your title there, Grow American Jobs, I want to say grow American democracy, grow representative government at the same time as we do trade. And I think we really got way out of kilter back in the 1980s when these agreements began to be imbued with the kind of power they have.
Ms. Kaptur, you're very, very correct about the role of trade policy in hollowing out the American jobs in almost every sector. You've mentioned several sectors. and in every one of those, we've seen this happen. We're